Is it Luka Doncic, best player in the series, on the other side? Is it Kristaps Porzingis, his health or lack thereof? Is it Kyrie and his return to Boston, going against these Celtics, the final boss, if you will, for Tatum and Brown? Or something different? Other. You can write it in. We'll accept those answers. Mego, how'd you vote?
I would like my answer to just be yes, like to all of it.
All of them.
But I'm going to choose Luka because he's really the one aspect of the Mavs that could make this a real upset over the Celtics. I think that the Celtics are going to win with or without Kristaps Porzingis. I think it would just be the difference between 6-game series and 7-game series, really. I think they can pull it off without him, but it's such a strange series because Luka will be the best player on the court. Like, he is better than Jason Tatum as an individual player. And the way that you've seen him get hot from time to time, plus the psychological warfare, we talked about it a little bit on Friday, Arcan, like the way that he can get into his opponent's heads is the kind of thing that I've seen this core of this Celtics team be susceptible to before. And so he's just a walking, trash-talking nightmare to me. And so that's the aspect that gives me real pause when I go, okay, like, is this just going to be a dominant series by the Celtics, or who's going to put up a real fight here, and when are we going to be sitting uncomfortably watching these games?
So I know we're going to focus on Porzingis more, but you're done with that? They don't need Porzingis to beat the Mavs?
So I don't want to like be moving the goalposts, but whenever I said that leading up to it, I firmly thought it was going to be Denver or Minnesota.
A good team?
Yeah.
Yeah, like an actual good
I feel
team?
like,
Yeah.
okay, are we going to do this thing right now where we're all doing like a mea culpa to Dallas for nobody picking them for being in the finals?
No, I don't think they're very good. So no, I'm not doing a mea culpa.
They're better than we thought, but the playoff run, I'm not sure that anyone outside of Texas predicted this playoff run from them. So on the one hand, I feel like I'm being a little like, again, moving the goalpost by saying since that April 30th injury going like, oh my God, you need Kristaps Porzingis out there. And then the team that you're seeing in the finals, I know that they beat Minnesota, who beat Denver, but I'm still would be way more afraid of those teams, seeing them in the finals just because of how the matchup would be against the Celtics. And I would be way more concerned about Kristaps Porzingis being out there.
Yeah, so look, I'm not going to play this game where as long as Luka and Kyrie are healthy, I will not take anything away from the Celtics in their run. This is the finals. This is who you get. You can't do anything about that. Hopefully they're healthy, because every other team you've gotten before hasn't been healthy. That's like an extra mile. You can't control it, but that's like an extra mile. I don't think Dallas is very good, but I won't take away from the Celtics beating Dallas. I don't think that's a great team on the other side. I'm with you. I definitely don't think they need Porzingis. We can get back into that, but I hadn't heard you say that before. Arkin, how'd you vote?
I voted Kyrie. Kyrie's return to Boston. And the reason why I did that is because I expect Luka Doncic to go crazy in this series. I expect him to have a very strong series. He's had a crazy playoffs. He's number one in every single statistical category, and I just don't think that's going to stop suddenly in the finals. I'm expecting that. I'm also kind of expecting Porzingis either to not be ready, or he'll play, but he's on a minutes restriction, or he's limping around or something. I'm not expecting him to be 100%. So his health is something that I've already kind of in my mind compartmentalized is not going to be perfect. The wild card here, I think, is Kyrie. That's the one that I think you sort of look at. And all throughout the playoffs, like, he hasn't been spectacular all playoffs. He wasn't great in that Oklahoma City series. He only averaged about 15, 16 points a game. So he's been kind of on and off. But if he's on and he's able to sort of feed off the Boston thing and do all that, and Luka's going and Porzingis isn't out there, like that to me, that's the wild card. That's the X factor. That's the thing that I'm most concerned about, I guess. The other two things I sort of expect. I'm most concerned about what Kyrie's going to do.
Okay. And look, you call him the wild card. He's like the wild card in the entire
He's
NBA
the wildest
playoffs.
of all
cards.
I
mean, he really is the perfect word for him, because he could do anything.
If there's a card that was like an exploding cigar, that's Kyrie.
Like, he could come out, he could lay an egg, he could dominate. Like, there's a chance, Arkin, he's the second best player in the series.
Yeah.
There's a chance it's Luka and then Kyrie. Like, Kyrie on his best day can outplay Tatum. I would not project it that way. That's not a prediction. But Kyrie on his best day, definitely greater than Jalen, can be greater than Tatum. So, like, he could be the second best player in the series after Luka, and he could just no-show. Like that. Like, there's so much in between where Kyrie could wind up. I get being terrified of Kyrie responding to Boston or taking over. I fully understand that, because that is in his range of outcomes.
Yeah, and that's sort of where I am with it. I think that, recent history would tell you anyway that Kyrie's kind of got an issue in Boston. He hasn't won here in how long? Since he stomped on the logo back in when he was with Brooklyn. And he's been here a lot, and it doesn't seem like the Celtics really are that scared of him. It doesn't really seem like he has something figured out with this group of Celtics or that he has the psychological edge or anything. But you also are seeing kind of a new guy. You know, you're seeing a guy with a new outlook, if you believe it or not, and a guy playing at a very high level on certain nights. So, you know, it's a little bit like Harden last year. Harden in the Philadelphia series, every other night he's giving you 40 points, and then the next night he gives you 15, 16. I think Kyrie is going to be a similar kind of X factor in this series, and if he's on, then that's my biggest concern.
Okay, you guys can jump in on this. Again, you can vote at Jones and Mego. I went with other. I still want to see Tatum specifically and Jalen to a lesser degree do it on the biggest stage. They've had good postseasons. I've seen Tatum have big games before. Jalen is the Eastern Conference Final MVP. So, like, I know they can do it on big stages. Can they do it on the biggest? And there was a graphic today on Get Up that caught my eye. This is not good company to be in. Jalen Brown and Jason Tatum have played in 102 playoff games together. They've never won an NBA title. That can change in the next week or so. But to this point, 102 games, they've never won a title. We've seen this graphic going around with Al Horford. Most games played in the postseason without winning a title after Stockton and Malone. Well, those two are the top of the list. 172 games they played together, and they are number one. Jerry West, Elgin Baylor played 110 games together, didn't win. Patrick Ewing, Charles Oakley, 106. Reggie Miller and Dale Davis, 105. So, like, I mean, look, Dale Davis is Jalen is better in his sleep than Dale Davis. Same thing with Charles Oakley. But
he wasn't even the best Davis on that team.
No, he wasn't. But it's like that's how you get that number up there. Stockton, Malone, Ewing, Reggie Miller. Like, these are the names you're next to on this list.
Those are like the biggest losers.
This is not a great list. This is not a great list to be on. So change that quickly. And I want to see Tatum do that. And I want him to prove he can do it. I think he can. I'm picking the Celtics in this series. I think it'll be Tatum's league. I'll consider him the best player in the league if he goes out and has a representative series. But I want to see him actually do it. And until he does it, I'm always going to wonder if he can do it because I'm sure there were plenty of Jazz fans who thought Stockton and Malone would finally break through. Or Knicks fans thought Patrick Ewing would do it. Or the Pacers fans with Reggie Miller. You know, Barkley fans probably thought he'd do it at some point in time. Clyde Drexler. There's a lot of them. I guess Drexler ultimately broke through in Houston. But, you know, there's all these guys who you thought would do it. And you assume they'd do it. They've been there. Of course they'll get that done. Get it done while you're there. And I want him to prove he can get it done. I'm still not sure he can until he actually does it.
It's a fascinating stat because it's kind of like the recipe with these two guys. I'm not sure that you can look around the league and pinpoint another duo that is in the same kind of statistical company. Like, obviously you have the historical stats that you just referenced from Get Up on ESPN, but it's this recipe of these guys who come into the league a year apart, and they both find almost immediate success in terms of making a deep playoff run in 2018 to the Eastern Conference Finals, and then return there so many times. And we spend so much time knocking them for getting close and not being able to finish it and win the whole thing. And I think that that's legitimate. Like, I think that it is legitimate that you can look at it and cast out and say, what's stopping them? Like, why haven't they won it before? But at the same time, it is a testament to they've both done enough individually in terms of winning all NBA honors that now they're going to stay in Boston most likely for the next couple years because they're getting their Supermax contracts here, which you can only get here for the first go around after your rookie contracts and your extensions because you're with the market that drafted you, and they stuck together. Like, part of it is I'm asking you guys, because they started these runs so young, they're able to compile those playoff numbers kind of earlier than any other duos. Like, can you think of anybody? I'm kind of surprised there isn't anything from those OKC teams back when it was Durant and Westbrook.
That's a good point.
But I guess they didn't make as many deep runs.
Right.
And so I can see how it goes both ways, where you're like, God, you don't want to be like with a bunch of perennial losers as a duo. And maybe those teams kept those guys together too long, thinking that they were always going to win it. But at the same time, it is a unique thing when you look around the league. I can't think of anybody else who has that.
So we talk about this all the time with Tatum and Brown and the Celtics team. Like, and we talk about it in different ways, but it's really all the same thing. Can they get it done? Can they handle the spotlight? Are they good enough in the clutch? Like that level of pressure and dealing with adversity. Can they do it? That's my write-in option. Other is how I answered.